All right. Greetings to everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I'm Mustafa Kashif, and today with me here is
Mohammed Ahmed
Muhammad
Ahmed.
Muhammad Ahmed. And what, what are we going to do here today? We're going to have a very interesting discussion, actually. And the discussion is going to be around the subject of polygamy. Yes, polygamy. And in fact, we have a long reach where this particular subject is concerned. Here in Toronto, Canada, the aim or the gist is to possibly have polygamy legalized in this country. Am I correct, my brother?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, so that's the gist behind today's video. Now, we're not saying that after this video it's going to become legalized because everybody's going to fall in love with this subject, because in fact this subject is a very tedious one, quite honestly, for most people. Women in particular have a lot of sensitivities towards this subject here, and as such it has put a lot of relationships in a bind, because there are men like myself, and I'm sure like my brother here, who we support the idea of polygamy coming from a Muslim point of view, and also coming from a human right or a human point of view. And what is important to note is that polygamy is not necessarily a Muslim thing, it's not necessarily a religious thing, because they are cultures, and I say cultures with an S, in the continent of Africa, throughout the continent of Africa, wherein polygamy is practiced to a large degree. And in some cases, the practitioners of polygamy aren't Muslim.
Absolutely.
And in some cases, they're not even
Religious.
religious. There we go. We have also cases that has been identified in other parts of the world. In fact, even here in North America, right? I watched a show called sorry, I can't even remember the name of the show, but I watched it on HBO a few years ago, and they talked about polygamy from all different angles. Polygamy, polyandry, polygyny, and so on and so forth. And these definitions come as women become interested in the subject of having more than one so-called husbands, or
Partner, yeah.
and so on and so forth. So I guess on a wider scale, the desire to have more than one partner, is a subject that takes on many parts. But nevertheless, polygamy, as we are talking about it here today, is the case where one man, is married to, and I say married, I'm not talking about, having casual relationship or casual sex. Correct, my brother?
Absolutely.
We're talking about marriage. We're talking about being responsible, right? One man being allowed, in the case of Islam, because I'm a Muslim and my brother here is Muslim also, we have come to accept the idea of up to 4 wives, up to 4. And this means that you are absolutely responsible for the women in your life and the children that may come as a result of that. So, my brother, we're going to talk about this here today, and we're going to start off by I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. We're going to have some discussions around the questions asked and the answers given. How about that?
Excellent, yeah, sure, go ahead.
All right, yes. So, polygamy. First thing, why polygamy? Why should it be legalized here in this country and possibly around the world?
My point of view is it's a natural phenomenon. A lot of us don't have more than one wife, but we do have relationship with a lot of other women. In some cultures, yes, it does allow to have multiple wives. But even in any culture, I've lived in the African culture, I've lived in the Middle Eastern culture, I've lived in European cultures, I've lived in North America. I know for a fact that a lot of men do have one wife, but they do have numerous extramarital affairs. It seems to me like it's a natural phenomenon. It's a desire that human beings have been created with, especially men. And that is the reason I see why this thing needs to be considered and made legal. Because whether we legalize it or not, it's done behind the scenes. It's a source of breakage for so many marriages, because after being married and being together for so many years, having children, maybe even grandchildren, people divorce once they know, oh, my other half, the husband, is intending to marry or has married another woman. And I have seen cases where women would rather accept an extramarital affair as opposed to a legalized marriage, whether it is legalized by culture or religion or secular, right? They can tolerate this kind of behavior. So, but the reason is, I think, is in the making of human beings, and this applies even to animals. If you ask the farmers, you'd see they put so many female cows with one bull. In some cultures, like in my culture, there's this expression saying you cannot put two bulls in the same herd of females, because it will create havoc, right?
Right. So, and you said your culture. Tell the audience which country you're from, what culture specifically you're from.
I'm from East Africa, Kenya. I've lived in Kenya, I've lived in Tanzania. I've grown up in both places. And the cultures in Kenya, for example, or Tanzania, you can marry more than any number of wives that you want. It is legal, it is permissible. But for the Muslims, they know they have a limit of 4 wives. That is what has been prescribed by God Almighty. But other cultures, they marry more than that.
Okay. This thing called polygamy, it has been a struggle for many. Struggle for both men and women. And I think that struggle that men have to deal with is coming to a head. Not so much for the females, but here's why I think for men it's coming to a head. Because men have been practicing polygamy for quite a long time.
Absolutely.
But it has not been labeled as such. Like you said just now in your dissertation there. As a young man growing up in the Caribbean, specifically in Guyana, I have seen cases where men have maintained 2 families. And I've heard of cases where men have literally had children with 2 women, in some cases 3 women, right?
Even more, yeah.
Even more. But, I know of cases where that has happened. They have maintained, the so-called wife here that everybody knows of. And, in my country, the other woman is known or labeled as the sweet woman. I don't know what makes her sweeter, but, she was the sweet woman.
Okay.
So I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe the wife was sour. I don't know, but that's just a joke. But the point being that men have done this And I guess because of it being a natural, innate quality in men to not be monogamous. Now, when men are monogamous, so to speak, I think it's because they feel that they don't have a choice. But as long as a man has that choice, as long as he feels any sense of that choice that he can actually partake in, I, it seems natural. He goes with it. On the other hand, it's a double whammy for women because the woman who is considered the wife or the first wife even, she sees herself as I am the crown princess. I am the jewel, and the question is oftentimes asked, am I not enough for you? Am I not enough for you? So when she's faced with believing that she has the right to be the one and only, what in her mind must make her feel that, I have to share my husband with this other woman. Yet, when the man cheats, so to speak, it's with another woman. Right? And here is something to think about here. The woman who is coming in as a possible second wife, as a concubine, as a girlfriend, label it however one wants to label it. Second wife, concubine, girlfriend, irregardless. The woman who is coming in always seem to be more willing to accept the idea of I'm coming into this situation. The one who has been there before, she is informed of it and she will find any excuse, it seems, to not accept it. Even in cases where it has been stipulated and clearly made mention, this is what I want to do. In the case of the man, this is what the man wants to do. Can you deal with it? Sometimes it might even be stated, yes, I'm okay with it. But that's in theory. When the actual practical reality steps up and steps in, it becomes a different reaction. What's your take on that, brother?
I think the perception of polygamy varies between different nationalities and cultures.
Okay.
I'll give you an example of that. Like recently, I've seen politicians, even presidents of so-called first world countries, go to Africa to motivate or advocate for what is so-called LGBT, whatever they call it now, to Africans. And I've listened to at least 4 African presidents telling them that as much as we understand about this is not our concern. This is not a problem of priority with us. We know that it exists, but our culture and our people will not agree to endorse it legally.
And as we say, LGBT or LBGT, whatever.
Yeah.
Just to give our viewers an understanding, that's those are the abbreviations for the different practices, being lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. So, go ahead.
So I've listened to the presidents answering other presidents that thank you, but no thank you, not for us. It's not something we, would like to endorse us. As much as the first world country or developed countries opposing this polygamy, which other countries in the world endorse. But my concern here is the evolution of this situation. I have lived long enough to see things being changed, rules being modified and changed to suit the generation that we are in. I used to remember as a kid that the legal age was 21 years of age in the Western countries. And I've lived to see it being reduced to 18 years. And now it's gone down to 16 years.
Yes.
The 16-year-old can get married, can have a driver's license, and so on. I have seen same-sex marriages being approved when some time ago, it was illegal. It was inconceivable by the authorities, the governments, even by religious sects. Now it's become legal. And I'm trying to think, what has brought this about? I have seen cases of in societies, in the Western societies, I've seen cases what they call wife swapping. People get together in a group, in a party, having fun. They go with their partners and then they exchange partners there. You know?
Yeah, that's a
They
fact.
have fun, they have sex, and then everybody goes home with their partner, right? So I've been wondering, what is so difficult about this concept? And I do not want to bring it up as a religious thing. This is a human right thing.
Right.
And I'm not advocating just for men. If a man wants to have more than one wife, or a woman wants to have more than one husband, we are consenting adults. This is what we want. We're not breaking any laws. We're not causing any harm. You know, I've seen marijuana being legalized recently. You know, something that was illegal, seriously illegal, right? And I have other things which are more dangerous, like alcohol and marijuana, for example. The reason why they were illegal or controlled is because of the harm it would bring to the society, the lives, the safety. It was a health issue, it was a safety issue, yet it's been legalized. Why not polygamy? If people are consensual, especially if they're adults, they've already reached an age where they have a choice to agree or disagree. Nobody is forced into a polygamous relationship. I advocate strongly to the Muslim community that during the wedding it's made clear in the beginning, because I have seen so many marriages breaking down after children are born, after 20 years of marriage, 30 years of marriage. The man says, oh, I want to have a second wife. It becomes an issue and the whole thing breaks down. So the children are devastated. The family is broken down, is devastated. So I would like it brought up at front, like in the beginning. Everyone should be on the same page. If this is to happen, where do I stand? Because on the Islamic perspective, marriage is not mandatory. It's not compulsory. It is something that you can choose or refuse. But it's good that when you get into it, it's very clear to you that this is a possibility. This is prescribed by the Almighty that we all believe in.
I have a question based on that, based on what you're saying. And please do stick a pin there, because I'd like for you to finish with what you're saying. Now, generally speaking, it seems as though women are the ones who have a problem in the polygamy area more so than men. That's how it appears, right? Do you believe that if polygamy becomes legalized, that women would perhaps relax a little bit about it? Perhaps you think women are likely to accept it any different, any better?
I don't think
if it becomes legalized.
I don't think it's going to become a natural solution, right? But then it will be, as you put it, legal. Secularly, it is something permissible. They can, whether people, those who would endorse it will practice it, those who don't want to won't do it. For example, when it comes to children, right? Many men take it for granted that, oh, it is the woman who should take birth control because he doesn't want any more children. So I say to the men, what gives you the right to impose a woman taking birth control pills every day just because you don't want any more children? Maybe she does. If you don't want it, you do something about it on your body, on yourself.
Okay.
You understand me?
All right.
But the relationship can continue. We already have 4 kids. I don't want any more. So I take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And we can still continue this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if the woman wants more children, then you can divorce and she can move on to have more children with somebody else. Because you don't want more children.
Okay.
You're considering all the pros and cons that goes with raising a child.
Okay. Now, what are some of the benefits of polygamy that would have a politician that if, let's say, 3 million signatures go to a politician's office or to the House for them to debate and then hopefully bring it into law that it becomes legalized, blah blah, like marijuana is now legal in the state, in the province of Ontario at least. What would be the benefits? What would be like good reasons for one to look at it and say, okay, I can see this as something that I wouldn't mind doing. And I'm talking about your average non-Muslim, person. Talk about maybe
Absolutely.
2 or 3 of the benefits, like real solid, airtight case benefits that would make a person say, wow, okay, I never knew that. I never thought about it.
Okay, that's an interesting question, and I totally understand it. The way I would answer that is in relationships, right? Whether it is polygamous or not, I have seen cases where children are come to life, come to existence, and it is hidden in the community or society that this is the children of so and so. It goes to an extent of even changing the identity of the child, not giving the name of the father, the biological father. No? So it will alleviate a lot of problems in terms of rights of human beings, children. Because if I'm going to have a child outside of wedlock that my wife doesn't know about or my family doesn't know about, and I keep it a secret, where does that leave that child? Understand me? But if it is legal, it is legal. It's my child. He bears my name, and I'm responsible for that child. So that will kind of put it in a position. And of course, I'd like to talk to those politicians who not agree to endorse it, because, as I said in the beginning, the whole thing of the desire of men and women have been created differently. What women go through, men don't go through, right? For example, a man has an affair with other women because of different conditions that a woman goes through, phases. A woman goes through menstruation. A woman becomes pregnant for 9 months. Her desire for relationship with her husband is interfered with. Mm-hmm. After delivery, a woman goes through a certain phase, so that man has to wait. A man has no reason to wait. And this is the major cause of, this is why maybe the other religion like Islam has allowed it, because a man hasn't got challenges that a woman does. So as a result, he might resort to other means to satisfy his needs. And that might produce results that are not fruitful or beneficial to the society or to the family, right? So, and that's the reality, that's why we say this is a male, this is a female.
Okay. And also too, if I may throw my 2 cents in, the fact that society as a whole has always tried to impose upon any member of society, for that matter, to be responsible. You know, from the time we are children reaching a certain age, you know, our parents begin to teach us, you know, acts of responsibility. You know, it could be as simple as, you know, start learning to wash your own clothes, or to iron your clothes, or to do something, or to cook, or whatever. You know, acts of responsibility. Now, again, in the Islamic context, I think one of the things that could make the case for polygamy to become legal is the fact that men and women alike will and should be acting at least responsible in the case of being with each other. And what I mean by this, if a man is allowed to marry only one woman, first and foremost, you are forcing him to go against his naturalness. That's one. So he's going against that to fulfill a societal law, not the natural order of law, but a societal law. So if we learn to relax the societal law and give people the right to at least be natural in their living, that I think is a good reason to start. Secondly, the responsibility part of it. A man in Islam, a Muslim man, if he takes more than one wife, even one, there are some responsibilities that's placed upon him. So if he takes 1, 2, 3, or 4, it doesn't matter. He is to act and to behave responsible in his tenure with wife or wives. In other words, the Quran goes as far as telling the man to be responsible in terms of providing and protecting the two main aspects of him being responsible to his family. Why would we not want men to be responsible? But if a man is sued in court for child support, right? And that money that is taken from him to pay for that child or children is another way of the courts saying, we, the courts, are making you responsible for your behavior. So if you are supporting responsible behavior, why not support responsible behavior from the beginning rather than wait until the end? Because I don't see it as responsible behavior to tell a man you can have one wife but turn a blind eye if he have one wife and 6 girlfriends. And to the 6 girlfriends, he is not necessarily a responsible person. Now, in some cases, like I said earlier, you've had men that has maintained 2 homes. To me, that's a sense of responsibility. Why not legalize that? Perhaps the men who were not responsible may now have reasons to feel, well, okay, you know what? Seeing that I don't have to hide necessarily to do what I want to do, then I can at least come into the open, behave the way I really, really want to behave, act responsible, and society may just give me a pat on the shoulder and a congratulatory note. And that may allow me now to, to act more responsible. What you think?
I think what you're saying is very correct. And I would like to reiterate that we are both Muslims.
Yes.
I'm a strong Muslim. I'm a strong believer, right? And in Islam, it's prescribed that you can marry up to 4 wives, but there are conditions. to do that,
That is correct.
which a person is going to be accountable in front of God on the day of judgment. And it is taught in Islam that a person who did not behave fairly to his two families, his both wives, treat them fairly and squarely, God says on the resurrection day he will paralyze half of his body. It is that important. This polygamy in Islam has got strict rules. I know a lot of Muslims, they take it as an advantage. They don't take responsibility. What you're saying is quite true, but then they are obligated to do that because it is official. If I had an affair with a girl in the street or somewhere else, and she becomes pregnant, I won't even know. It is something that I might discover it, but the same girl has an affair with other women, with other men. You know what I mean? And she cannot even tell who the father of the child is.
Right, because should a woman
Yeah.
become pregnant after having sex with two or more men, then there's confusion right there.
Exactly.
She cannot truly tell. She may have an idea, yes.
Not really, because I know women who have had affairs with 2-3 men in one night.
Right.
You know?
Right, and if that's the case, then it's even more difficult for her to ascertain as to
But
who.
when you are married to a woman, then the first thing is that is your son. You are my husband.
Yeah.
And if an issue arises, then you do your DNA and stuff like that. But it is a commitment. And I know for a fact, that the burden of polygamy falls on a man. Not so much in our Western society, but in the third world countries, because it's taken for granted that, it's the man who should provide everything for the house, the wife, the children, the house, pay all the bills, which is kind of different here because you work as a team. It's the culture. It's the way things happen here, But you're quite right, It's not something that can be suppressed and be brushed off or put under the carpet, No, it's a reality. This is a test for human beings. Men have been created with their own challenges, and so have women,
All right.
It's a reality of life.
Well said. Well said. Well, this will bring us to basically the end of this discussion here between myself and Mohammed. But here's the reality. This particular subject, it is so far-reaching. A half an hour, even an hour, 2 hours cannot do justice to this subject. Why? Because like Mohammed said just now, it has been suppressed for so long. It is only now that people in general, men in particular, are truly